Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to Ask Huda. I'm your host, Jamil Rashid, and I'd like to welcome back today Sheikh Muhammad Salah. Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Jazakallah khair, Sheikh, for being with us on Ask Huda today.
Wa jazakum.
Okay, let's go through our telephone numbers for you today. Should be on your screen now. Country code is 202. Then it's 38555 248 or 249. Our email address is ask@huda.tv. And I've got two reminders for you today. The first, as usual, please turn down your television sets. We do get interference with that. And the second is, please do call in early. We accept it to be quite a busy show today. Sheikh, let's start off with a question from Sister Abdullah from the United Arab Emirates. We did actually start with this question, but I think you wanted a bit more time, especially on the issue of menses and what to do while you're in your menses. I'm going to attach it with the question of Sister Sumbul too. When you're in your menses, how do you go about performing, say, Salat al-Istikhara, Sujood al-Shukr, if you want to, a thankful sujood, and also, how do you go about making dua at night time, reading some ayat before you go to sleep?
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, wal aqibatu lil muttaqeen, wa la udwana illa ala al-zalimin. والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. I praise Allah and I seek His help. Whomsoever Allah guides is the truly guided one, and whomsoever Allah leaves astray, no one can show him guidance. May the best peace and blessings be upon Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decrees anything, it is definitely for the benefit of His creatures. When Aisha al-Mu'mineen, may Allah be pleased with her, was joining the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam in his journey of Hajj, and right before entering Mecca, she experienced her period. She started crying. Of course, because she understood that she will not be able to perform the faridah as everybody else. She will not be able to perform tawaf. She will miss the umrah. And Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam saw her in this condition, and he said, "Don't you cry. Have your period started?" He realized that. She said, "Yes." He said, "Don't you cry. This is something which Allah ordained on all the daughters of Eve. So it's not your choice. And Allah does not accuse anyone or hold them accountable for anything that they did not have any choice with." Similarly, when He ordered women not to fast and not to make the salah or not to offer the salah nor the tawaf during the period, He ordered women to make up the missed days of fasting, because this is easy and affordable, and it's only 1 month per year. But in the case of a salah, they don't have to make it up, and they're not responsible for that, nor are they blameworthy. So that means Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us ease. Ad-Din yusr, la yukallifu Allahu nafsan illa wus'aha. What does it mean? According to the opinion of the vast majority of the scholars, that a woman during the menses cannot read the Quran as a mean of worship. But we said an exception of making dua, supplication, seek a refuge, make remarks which may contain verses of the Quran with the intention of just a dhikr, not a recitation of the Quran. And we also exempted women who are either teaching or studying the Quran on a regular basis. We said they may do that, but without touching the Quran, or they want to touch it, they may do that with a barrier, such as a glove or a cloth or whatever. Also, we said women who have memorized the Quran or a portion of the Quran, they're afraid that they will forget it if they don't revise it, are exempted from the previous ruling. Now, is reciting al-mu'awwidhat, قُلْ هُوَ اللَّهُ أَحَدٌ وَقُلْ أَعُوذُ بِرَبِّ الْفَلَقِ وَقُلْ أَعُوذُ بِرَبِّ النَّاسِ, in addition to Ayat al-Kursi, before going to sleep, is a recitation of the Quran or mere dua? It is a recitation of the Quran. So, the same ruling, previous ruling, which is adopted by the vast majority of the jurists, applies here as well. What does it mean? I will not be able to recite these surahs before going to sleep, in the morning and in the evening and so on. There are other means of ruqyah, and there are other supplications before going to sleep. بِسْمِكَ اللَّهُمَّ أَمُوتُ وَأَحْيَا بِسْمِكَ اللَّهُمَّ وَضَعْتُ جَنْبِي وَبِكَ أَرْفَعُ, etc. So, if you're not reciting the Quran as a mean of worship, there are other means of worship, such as making dhikr. If you keep yourself busy and your tongue busy with tasbih, tahmeed, takbir, and asking for forgiveness, that should be enough, insha'Allah Azza Jal. There are things which may appear as a form of salah, but in fact, they are not salah. By the meaning, they do not require tahara. You can just do it at any time, such as sujood al-shukr. Sujood al-shukr. The prostration of, or making sujood of, showing gratitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala upon being saved from a danger or upon receiving good news. And Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam taught us to do that, to fall in prostration in sujood, to show gratitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to be grateful. This is not a salah. This sujood represents the sujood of the salah, but it is not a salah. So it does not require wudu. It is best if you have wudu, but it does not require wudu. Reciting the supplication of istikhara, will women during their period or menses be deprived from consulting Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Of course not. It's not required for them to pray Salatul Istikhara. The supplication by itself is sufficient. So you can say, "Oh Allah, I consult you by your knowledge, and I seek power in your power. إِنِّي أَسْتَخِيرُكَ بِعِلْمِكَ وَأَسْتَقْدِرُكَ بِقُدْرَتِكَ." The supplication, and you name your need without having to pray. And we also said that any person who needs an immediate decision needs to consult Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, since the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam used to teach his companions al-istikhara as he used to teach them the surah of the Quran very oftenly. That means it is required upon doing or making a serious decision or a serious business. So in this case, women during their menses may only supplicate without having to establish the prayer itself or the 2 rak'ahs. So they can make dua al-istikhara without need to pray.
Jazakallah khair, Sheikh. Sister Abdullah from the United Arab Emirates had a second question. It's regarding somebody who enters hospital as a patient and they have to wear a catheter, that's a urine bag.
No.
She wanted to know, how do they go about praying, knowing that this bag is attached to them and it's on their side? She gave an example of somebody who was in the hospital for over a month and didn't pray due to this, and what was their situation?
It is very important for every Muslim to study and to learn fiqh al-marad, the rulings of fiqh which are related to sickness. How do you pray? And what are you allowed to skip? What are you exempted from concerning the ibadat? We initially agreed that every believer must offer the salah and on time. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, إِنَّ الصَّلَاةَ كَانَتْ عَلَى الْمُؤْمِنِينَ كِتَابًا and مَوْقُوتًا. A salah is ordained and to be offered on their fixed times. So there are 2 commands in one: to offer the salah and to offer it on time. Who will be exempted from that? Several people. The travelers, people on the battlefield, guards, surgeons, those who are doing certain business which they cannot leave their business. As I said, for instance, a surgeon who's operating in a surgery. He's local, he's resident, he's not traveling. But he may combine 2 prayers at the time of either one of them. We're talking about Dhuhr and Asr together and Maghrib and Isha together. Similar to the traveler. People during the fear or during the heavy rain, thunder, storm, etc., even though they're residents, they may do that. Sick people who suffer and are confined to bed, they find it very difficult to make wudu for every salah and so on. They may combine the prayers. But of course, only those who are traveling, they may shorten the prayers. But those who are resident, they may join the 2 prayers together at the time of either one, but they will pray each prayer on full, as regular. Similarly, in case of not being able to use the water for tahara, due to being burned, or body part or a limb is burned, which is required to be washed during wudu or a cast or whatever, you wash the body parts which are exposed, which are safe to wash, and you wipe with wet hands on the parts which are covered with the cast or with the cream or the ointment or whatever. You don't have to wash it if it is harmful. What if the person cannot make wudu at all? Then we go to at-tayammum. At-tayammum, which is a very simple process. You're mentioned in a case where What really precedes making wudu is at-tahara from the impurities, urination and defecation. What if the person is constantly urinating or constantly passing gas or having a catheter, like this case? You will make the wudu if it is possible, and you will pray still even if there is still urine leaking or passing gas. This is a case similar to salasul bawl, being incontinent, not able to maintain urination or your wind. So in this case, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also made it easy for the sick people to combine the prayers, and meanwhile to pray in every possible condition. If they cannot stand up, while sitting down, facing the Qibla. What if it is impossible? Then pray whichever direction you can. لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها, and fear Allah and keep your duty to Him as much as you can. So still with a catheter, you still have to pray, and you're allowed in this condition to combine two prayers. I'm talking about the two prayers of Dhuhr and Asr together, and Maghrib and Isha together at the time of either one of them.
And the person who didn't pray for over a month, she was given an example of, that person has to make up the
She
salah.
has to make up the prayers. With each prayer that she's making, to make up one of the missed prayers until she estimates that she made up all the prayers which she missed. Keep in mind that one who is unconscious for a long period of time does not have to offer the prayer because he or she were unconscious.
Jazakallah khair, Sheikh. Okay, we have the first call of the day. Sister Aisha from the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Sister, you're live on Ask Huda. Your question, please.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
First of all, I want to thank you for enlightening us with your knowledge. And second, I have a question. Is it obligatory for a lady to cover her head, to put a scarf while she's reading Quran? Thank you very much.
Jazakumullah khair.
Barakallah fiqh. Okay. Jazakallah khair. Sister Aisha from the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Okay, Sister Hadi, also from the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, had a question about slaughtering. She said in some countries they've banned the slaughtering of cows. They say that this is due to a law, and they've passed this law. Now, the Muslim religious organizations in this country, they have told the Muslims that we have to follow this rule, so you also are not allowed to slaughter any cows. You've got to abide by this ruling. The sister saying, if I don't abide by this ruling, is this something haram I've committed?
This makes a difference between two things. Whenever you live in a non-Muslim country and you're considered to be a minority, and there is a law, and there is a penalty, and there is a punishment if you break the law, then you abide by the law to skip the punishment. Okay? But does it become haram if you would do anything which is not haram in Islam? No. Would it become lawful to do anything that the law allows simply because the law in this country makes it lawful while it is haram in Islam? No, it is still haram. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, there are two verses with this regard. First is, قُلْ مَنْ حَرَّمَ زِينَةَ اللَّهِ الَّتِي أَخْرَجَ لِعِبَادِهِ وَالطَّيِّبَاتِ مِنَ الرِّزْقِ, says, who made it unlawful? The adornment, the zina which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brought to His people, and the lawful good food to consume. Whatever Allah made lawful is lawful. And if I can slaughter on my own, I will, because this is lawful, and it is my choice. But because I live as a minority and I want to abide by the law, that is fine. But in my heart, I believe this is illegal in my Sharia. I still don't break the law, but meanwhile I believe that slaughtering the cow and eating its flesh is lawful. So if somebody says, no, it becomes unlawful, no, this is outlaw. Only Allah, the Almighty, has the power of making lawful or unlawful. The second ayah, when Adi, the son of Hatim al-Ta'i, walked in to accept Islam before the Prophet ﷺ, it happened, a coincidence, that the Prophet ﷺ was reciting the verse, قوله تعالى اتخذوا أحبارهم ورهبانهم أربابا من دون الله والمسيح ابن مريم. Which means that they, the people of the scripture, have taken their priests and rabbis as partners, as gods, instead of Allah and the Messiah, son of Mary, Isa. So Adi was Christian, and he was wearing a cross. He said, no, we did not worship them. So Nabi ﷺ explained the meaning of the ayah. It's a very straightforward verse. And this is what's happening today. So that was happening also at the time of the Prophet ﷺ, and that's why he was sent to the entire universe, whether Ahlul Kitab or the disbelievers, the pagans or the atheists. So Nabi ﷺ asked Adi, Ya Adi, didn't they make what's unlawful lawful for you? He said, yes. And he said, didn't your priest make what's lawful unlawful for you? And vice versa? He said, yes. How? They made it lawful to consume or to eat the flesh of the swine. That is prohibited in Christianity and in Judaism. And Adi realized that. He said, yes, they made it lawful. Didn't they make lawful to drink? He said, yes. Did they make lawful to deal with interest and eat riba while it is unlawful in Christianity? He said, yes. He said, this is how you worship them. Worship is not just Allahu Akbar, facing the Qibla. This is one of the forms of worship. The literal meaning of worship is obedience. If you obey anyone on the account of disobeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this is how you take him as a partner in worship. So now, this law which they stated is illegal. And it is outlaw in Islam. And that's why we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to support them and to have their own community or society where they can have their own laws, because it doesn't make any sense. Also, it is worth of mentioning here that, can you imagine until today, where people have reached the moon and have achieved a great advanced level in science, in math, in electronics, etc. And still, people are worshipping animals. People are worshipping cows. People are bound down before animals, whether is it a cow, a snake, or a rat, or you name it. People are worshipping other humans like them. What does it mean? It means that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala provided us with talent, with intelligence, with this mind to reflect, with the senses to utilize them to recognize His oneness, to reach to how to please Him. Yet, they neglected all of that, and they followed their desire. اتخذ إلهه هواه. So we thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, first of all, that He chose us to be rightly guided, and He helped us to see the light and to recognize it from darkness. فالحمد لله على نعمة الإسلام وكفى بها نعمة. And may Allah guide all of us, and may Allah guide those who want to stray from the straight path.
Jazakallah khair, Shaykh. Okay, we have Brother Muhammad next from the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Brother, you're live on Ask Huda. Your question, please.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
First of all, I congratulate you for doing this beautiful program for a lot of Muslims. I'm basically from India, working in Saudi Arabia.
No.
And I'd like to know about loan from the bank.
Mm-hmm.
Here I asked the agent, he told me that it is lawful to take the loan from the bank, and here the sheikh, they have told us it is law, you can take it, it's not interest and all these things.
Mm-hmm.
So can I go for the loan? And the second question is, can I see your program in India in other languages?
Okay. Jazakallah khair, brother. Jazakallah, Brother Muhammad from the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia.
Okay,
I've got a sister waiting, Sister Maryam from Egypt, and we'll answer your question next. Sister Maryam, you're live on Ask Huda. Your question, please.
Okay, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
I'd like to spread my salams among you, and thank you very much for spreading this channel among me. Okay.
Jazakallah, sister.
Okay. And firstly, I have a question concerning Salah.
Mm-hmm. No. Could you just turn down your television set, please, if possible? Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
I have a question concerning Salah.
Okay, carry on, sister.
Okay, first of all, it's like I go to school and I miss the Dhuhr prayer all the time. And the teacher messages, they don't let me pray my Salah. And is it okay if I pray Dhuhr like 1 hour or a half before the Asr prayer?
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Barakallah feek.
You're welcome.
Okay, Sister Mariam there from Egypt. Jazakallah, sister. Okay, just before we go to that question, let me just quickly answer Brother Muhammad's question from the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia regarding programs to India. Of course, you can watch Ask Huda and all the programs on Huda TV by going to www.huda.tv. It's live streaming around the world 24 hours a day. So anybody in any other parts of the world who don't get some of our programs, please, you can log on and you can watch the program. So send that message there. Regarding the message of turning Huda in different languages, well, we're working on that. I forwarded this question to the management, and inshallah we should be getting some replies on that. Do you have any comments, Sheikh?
Concerning the first question of his, concerning loans from the bank, because this is a very frequently asked question. The Sheikh says yes, the bank says, the Sheikh says no, and the bank says yes, or vice versa. What really determines whether this contract is lawful or not is its contents. So simply read it throughout. And if there is any mention to interest rate, then right away disregard this contract. No matter what happens, there is riba in it. And riba would destroy your success, would ruin whatever you've achieved already. So, when you read, if there is any mention to interest rate, whether it is too big or too little, even if it is 0.1%, it doesn't really matter. Any debt, any loan, which is accompanied by interest, is riba.
Jazakallah khair. Okay, let's go to Sister Hadi from the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. She had a question about marriage. She said, can a Muslim woman marry a non-Muslim man? And she gave some information. She said the Muslim man, he's not a Christian or Jew. He's not from the Ahl al-Kitab. Also, this sister who's marrying this non-Muslim man, she prays and practices Islam the same she would if she was married to a Muslim man.
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَلَا تُنْكِحُ الْمُشْرِكِينَ حَتَّى يُؤْمِنُوا. Don't you give in marriage your daughters to a disbeliever. And the word disbeliever here covers every other faith other than Islam. Muslim women are only allowed and permitted to marry to Muslim men. That's it. Now what if a woman decides to get married to a non-Muslim? Regardless of his faith, of his religion, Ahlul Kitab, or even an idolater. It doesn't matter. If she does that out of ignorance, there will be some doubt in the contract. And she will not be punished for it because she did not know. But if she knows, and she says, I don't care and I don't think this is proper, with this statement, she too becomes a non-Muslim. Many people rush to make the decision, and they think, well, later on, he might accept Islam, Allah would open his heart. Never. If you do that, the state of being together with him is a state of adultery. There is no such marriage contract, nor divorce if you decide to separate, because there was no marriage in the first place. It is totally prohibited for any Muslim woman to think of marrying to a non-Muslim, unless she becomes herself a non-Muslim as well. May Allah protect all of us. So, anyone who knows anyone in this situation must inform them, because I have come across several women who are married to non-Muslims. I wouldn't say that they've accepted Islam and their husbands did not know. They were originally Muslims and born Muslims. And they just met this guy and they thought it's okay. And that's why we send our daughters abroad, send them to schools, to study, to mix up and mingle with the boys in mixing schools, and we don't warn them to serious issues like that. We throw them in fire and say, don't get burned. We throw them in the middle of the ocean and say, don't get wet. That doesn't make sense, and we're responsible for that.
Jazakallah khair, Sheikh. Okay, I've got a question here from Sister Sumbul from the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. She's asking a question about traveling to the United States of America. She said, we spoke about the mahram before, that a woman's not allowed to travel unless she has a mahram with her. She says, I'm going with my children from 13 years to 8 years, and I think she said one of the boys was 5 years, without my husband, and he's going to return and pick me up later on. She says, am I allowed to go in this situation?
The right answer to that is that it is not permissible for a woman to travel alone, a travel distance, even if it is just one day without her male mahram. Remains for us the definition of the mahram. Who is the mahram? We talked about a person whom the woman may not get married to eternally, permanently, because he's either a father or a son or a brother or an uncle. But if it is a cousin, he is not a mahram, because it is lawful for them to get married. What about a brother-in-law? Same thing. He is not a mahram, but he's my brother-in-law. Correct. As long as you're married to his brother. But for any reason, if there is separation or divorce or death of the husband, God forbid, this person becomes lawful for you to marry. I do not necessarily say that you will marry him, but as long as it's lawful, then he's not a mahram. Then let's talk about the age limit. We're talking about a son. She has several sons, mashallah, or only one son. What really determines whether this son becomes a qualified mahram or not is the puberty age. So if he has reached the puberty age at the age of 10, he's a mahram. 11, 12, 13, he's a mahram and he can travel with you and you have no problem with that whatsoever.
Jazakallah khair. Okay, we have Sister Razina next from the United Arab Emirates. Sister, you're live and ask her your question, please. Sister Razina, are you with us?
Yes, assalamu alaikum, brother.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Can you guys hear me clearly?
Yes, we can.
Very.
Okay. Jazakallah. Alright, Sheikh, I have a couple of questions for you. Number one is just a request that this question is really, really important to somebody, and I'm asking on his behalf.
Mm-hmm.
And he's here right now. And I would really appreciate if you can answer this question in this episode.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And the question is, there's this couple, they need to get married and they're in love with each other. So, but both of them, the guy and the lady, both have thalassemia minor. Are you aware of this sickness, Sheikh?
No.
Would you repeat it again, please?
Okay. Both of them have thalassemia minor. Now, the thing is, when you have thalassemia, this is a sickness, a blood disorder,
Mm-hmm.
and you have this
You
disease.
cannot have children.
Yes, they can have children, but there's a possibility the kids might have major thalassemia, which is a really deadly and, a killing disease. So it's quite lethal. So my question is that is it okay for them to go ahead and get married? Now, they really want to get married to each other, and this is the only hurdle which is there. Now, Islamically, what is the... could you tell us?
It's a very good question. Inshallah, we'll try our best to answer it within this episode. Inshallah.
Okay, your second question, sister?
Check with you if I can call you directly on your mobile. I've taken your mobile number quite some time back from the brother here in the studio, and I have the number with me, but I'm quite hesitant to call you because you might be busy, or if I'm allowed to call you or not. So is it okay to call you, and what will be the best time to call you?
Okay, that's all the answers to that I'll give you to now. Of course, there's no problem to call the Sheikh. I'm his secretary on this. You can call him. And if you want to know the best times, it's best to speak back to the brothers in the studio there. They'll be able to tell you, inshallah.
I will do that.
Okay then, Jazakallah for your question, sister. Okay, Jazakallah Sister Razina from the United Arab Emirates. Okay, with that we're going to take a short break and inshallah return in a couple of minutes. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
خيركم من تعلم القرآن وعلمه ورتل القرآن ترتيلا. Learning how to recite the Quran properly, learning the meaning of what we recite, including the ahkam from the verses which we recite, trying to implement what we learn in our daily life. We'll listen to the participants and the guests. We'll take your phone calls. We're going to recite live. We'll listen to your recitation and we'll correct it according to the rules and regulations which we'll state in each episode. Now your dream will come true.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back to Ask Huda. Let's remind you of our telephone numbers. Country code is 202, then it's 38555 248 or 249. Sister Hajar from Morocco asked a question regarding the difference between negligence and qadr in Islam. What's the difference, and how does a Muslim go about learning the difference so they can apply them in their life?
First of all, al-qadr is something that is considered one of the elements and the articles of faith for Muslims. And Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam counted the articles of faith, and he said, al-imanu an tu'mina billahi wa malaikatihi wa kutubihi wa rusulihi wal yawmil akhiri, and the sixth article was wa bil qadari khayrihi wa sharrih, meaning you must believe in the preordainment of Allah, in the divine destiny, whether it seems good to you or bad. That's all created and planned and ordained by Allah the Almighty, way before the creation of yourself and the heavens and the earth, as in the hadith, 50,000 years before we were created. The birth, the life, and the fate of every one of us was already known to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and documented in a record with Him. This is Al-Qadr. We must believe in that. Due to His infinite knowledge and unlimited power, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knew what's going to happen. So it only happens according to His will. Remains for us to link between this and our actions. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us as humans the freedom of choice, what we call it the free will. And that's why the believers are a minority concerning the population of the entire world. We're not even 50% of the living human beings. We're only less than a quarter of the population of mankind. That means there is almost 3/4 of them have made up their minds, and it chose not to believe in Allah. Chose to eat from His provision and enjoy whatever He provides for us, including life itself, and still disbelieve in Him, and still insult Him. That is their choice. Then everyone will be held accountable and will be responsible for whatever choice they make. That is the difference. Do we really have the choice? We do have the choice with regards to certain things. The issue of making the decision to believe or not to believe, to follow or to innovate, to do or not to do. But things which we don't have the decision with regards to life and death or provision, you may strive your utmost, but you will only get what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has ordained for you. Your term, no matter how much you try, once you have to go, it's over. If the entire world would come together trying to save the life of an individual, they cannot do any help. And if the entire world would come together to finish the life of any individual, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not ordain that to happen in this time, it will not happen. This is it. Al-Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, رُفِعَ الْقَلَمْ وَجَفَّتِ الصُّحُفِ. It has been decided, you cannot change it. What about our actions with regards to negligence? We have in Islam a law, قانون, hudud, kafarat, ransoms and punishments with regards to negligence. If somebody killed somebody by mistake due to negligence, an accident, a car collision due to a fault on you, then there is the blood money, and there is a ransom that you have to fast for, in instance, 2 consecutive months, or free a slave neck, etc. So we are responsible for our actions, which happen due to negligence. Example, the accident murder, the accident killing. And if you destroy the property of somebody else by accident, by law you're also required to fix it. من أتلف شيئا فعليه إصلاحه. Then we say, well, it was not my choice. Allah have decided that for me. True, but you did it. And the meaning of Allah have decided that and decreed it, that He knew it before it took place. This is the meaning. But not necessarily that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala moved you to do this mistake, whether out of negligence or deliberately.
Jazakallah. Okay, we have Sister Jibril from Canada. Sister, you're live on Ask Huda. Your question, please, Sister.
Assalamu alaikum. My
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
Salam as well to everyone there.
Jazakallah, Sister.
My question is about what is the ruling on wiping the feet when making wudu, and as well as when can we actually do that? Another question that I have is about praising someone. What is the matter of praising someone when you want to actually praise them? I read a hadith about that or the Prophet Muhammad threw dust on someone when he was praising somebody. So I was just wondering, how should we go about praising, someone if we are allowed to? And that's about it. Jazakallah khair.
Barakallah. Sister Jibril there from Canada. Okay, now we have Brother Diauddin from Egypt. Brother, you're live on Ask Huda. Your question, please. Okay, I think we've lost the brother then. If you call back, brother.
Stay the question with the sister from Canada.
Okay.
Because I believe they get the signal through the live streaming.
Yes, I do believe so. Okay, Brother Diauddin, if you could call back in, I think the directors will put you back straight away. Okay, we'll take the question of Sister Jibril from Canada. Regarding wiping over the socks when you're making wudu, what's the regulations? How do you go about doing it?
You just corrected the question, which is wiping over the feet. There is no wiping over the feet in wudu or in ghusl, period. It will be wiping on top of the socks, whether it's leather, fabric, or on the shoes, anything that you're wearing in your feet. But the feet themselves, if you are not wearing anything, then you must wash them in wudu. It's not sufficient to wipe on the feet. Wiping is only on top of your head and the hair, not the feet. If we're talking about wiping over the socks, Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam wiped over his socks, and he allowed one who is resident, not traveling, to wipe, and this wiping will be effective as a mean of tahara instead of washing the feet for 24 hours, for 5 daily prayers. And it will begin from the moment you start wiping, not from the moment you wear the socks or the shoes or the leather socks. Remains for us a very important condition, that before wiping, when can you wipe?
Okay, good.
If you had wudu initially, then you put your socks on during the state of tahara. You're maintaining this tahara while you're putting your socks on. Then, after that, a few minutes, you avoid your wudu. You want to make another wudu, you don't have to take them off. And this has nothing to do with being in winter or cold weather or traveling. As I said, if you're resident, you're going to work, you're in the car, it will be sufficient to wipe. How to wipe? You wet your right hand and your left hand. With the 4 fingers of each hand, you wipe on its correspondent foot. With the right on the right and with the left on the left. This is the most optimal way, as a Prophet.
Not on the sole or on the side or anything?
You wipe on top, not on the sole. Some people know that. They know that wiping is only on top. But they still, out of suspicion, they say, you never know. But they're dirty from beneath. It doesn't make any difference. The only difference it will make, it will be an innovation. This is a prescribed ibadah. At-tahara is an act of worship. We must comply with every prescription that came from the Prophet ﷺ with regards to performing the ibadah. This is very, very important. Okay? For the traveler, you may do that for 72 hours. I'm talking about 3 days and 3 nights.
And it starts when you break your wudu or when you put on your socks?
No, it starts at the time of making the action of wiping. In another word, let me say this. You put on the socks and you maintain wudu for a whole day.
Mm-hmm.
Then you avoid your wudu and you're ready to wipe on the socks. Then you start 24 hours from the moment you wipe on the socks.
Jazakallah khair, Sheikh. Okay, I've got a question from Sister Sakina from Egypt. A very disheartening kind of question, because it's more of advice on her situation. She said, I raised my children in the United States of America. I did homeschooling. I taught them the deen. They were practicing Islam. Then she said her daughter went to university, and subsequently, due to the fitna there, the problems there, she started leaving the hijab, leaving the aspects of the deen. She said, my son followed suit. She's not living in America anymore. She does speak to them by telephone. They live with her husband, ex-husband I presume. She says, every time I speak to them, it's very difficult to get through to them. When I do speak to them, if we speak about the deen, they turn off straight away, they get angry. What's our advice to our sister here, Sheikh?
It is very unfortunate and heartbreaking to hear that. I would like to condole the sister, because losing a son in an accident or death, a son or daughter, is way better, there is no comparison, than having your own son turn away from the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But guess what? This is expected when you don't take precaution. When you throw your son in fire, it's expected to get burned. Many people whom Allah blessed with wealth live in Muslim societies, and there are Muslim universities, they still send their kids abroad. And they don't mind. They think the most important thing in life is education, to get the biggest salary, to get a prestigious job. La. I swear to Allah in whose hand is my soul. The most important thing in life, which extends after life, is to receive salvation on the Day of Judgment. And for this cause, one has to make his entire life oriented and centered around this. So I send my kids where I believe that will benefit their deen, preserve and protect their aqidah.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when our kids go to study philosophy, this filthy subject or whatever in some non-Muslim states, what happens? They get brainwashed. And meanwhile, this poison is not met with an equivalent antidote. So they keep hearing this. Their mind is being poisoned day and night with the nonsense, with no logic whatsoever. And meanwhile, if they don't have somebody to explain to them or answer questions, they end up drop dead, being trapped in this. And I have a similar situation with somebody whom I tried to discuss with him. He said, I'm not even willing to open the subject. I said, why not? He said, because I know that you're convincing. He said, talk to me about anything else, but not this. Why? Why not? He said, because I know that if you start speaking to me, you'll convince me. So initially, he is not prepared even to listen. I understand your situation, sister. I condole you. May Allah give you strength and patience. But what I need to assure the viewers is a very important thing. I think there is a phone call. Let's take it first, then continue.
Okay, we have Sister Jamila from the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Sister, you're live on Ask Huda. Your question, please.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.
Your program is very useful to us.
Barakallah.
I have a question. My daughter is going to sit for an exam tomorrow. I would like to know what are the du'as that she should say now when she has forgotten something, or what is the prescribed dua when she has to do an exam? Could you please?
Okay, Jazakallah khair, sister. Okay, now we have Sister Huda from Egypt. Sister, you're live on Ask Huda. Your question, please.
Ayu.
Assalamu alaikum.
أتكلم ولا إيه؟
اتكلم إن شاء الله sister. Your question, please.
Okay. السلام عليكم.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته. Your question, sister? Do we have Sister Huda there with us?
That's a very tough question.
Okay, I think we've lost the sister there. Okay, Sister Huda, if you could call back, we'll entertain your questions. And please call back quickly, we're running out of time there. Okay, Sheikh, if we can, let's tackle Sister Aisha's question actually. It's something that we always get asked here, and it's really nice to see people are learning and striving. Sister really wants to know, there are some misconceptions about Islam in many societies. One of those is that regarding the covering of their head.
Yeah.
Now, reading Quran, Sheikh.
If you remember, before answering this, I have to go back to the sister who had this crisis with her children.
Okay, carry on with that question first, can't you?
One is required by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to protect himself and his family members and all of those who are under his guardianship from an-nar and from any act that would lead to the displeasure of Allah and his wrath. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا قُوا أَنفُسَكُمْ وَأَهْلِكُمْ نَارًا. O you who believe, protect yourselves and your family members against the fire. And one has to do every possible job to accomplish this mission and to turn it to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in a beautiful way. What happens if you do your best and the results do not come as you wished, as you expected? You contributed every effort to this mission, but very seldom cases it might not work out. I say Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would ask you about the effort you exerted, not the results. As a matter of fact, we have cases of great people who are much greater than us, the best humans, the prophets to begin with. Nuh alayhi salam, who spent 950 years preaching his people. Guess what? His own son was a disbeliever. And his wife, Similarly, Lut alayhi salam, his wife was a disbeliever. Ibrahim's father, Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam, the father of all the prophets, he did his utmost. He exerted every possible effort. He approached his father by every means. Yet his father died as a kafir. And so forth. And the best of the best, Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, whose uncle who admitted that, my nephew, I know that you're the prophet. I know that you are saying the truth. And I know that there is no God worthy of worship but Allah. But I'm not willing to change. Imagine, it's heartbreaking. And Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa attended his death and said, Ya Am, my beloved uncle, say La ilaha illallah to be saved. He said, I would love to say just to please you, but I can't. So he died as a kafir. Then will the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa be responsible for his uncle's disbelief? Will Nuh, will Lut, will Ibrahim be responsible for the disbelief of anyone? No. لا تزر وازرة وزر أخرى. No bearer of a sin will bear the sin of another. But when can you say that? You can say that when you started from the scratch, keeping in your mind that you want to bring your children to be religiously committed. You taught them the aqidah, the most important thing. Many people misinterpret iltizam or religious commitment. I've met many people in the West, born Muslims, Arabic, in the States, who look at their children as the most righteous. One would say to her daughter that she's the best of the best, even though she's not wearing hijab. I say, how could possible that happen? That she'll be the best and she's not even wearing hijab. She says, but heart is full of iman. That's a lie. We lie to ourselves. And soon the truth will prevail. And some people would think Islam is all about just wearing hijab, or making my son keep a beard, or just praying 5 times a day. No, it's a combination of so many things. That the parents have to educate themselves. The parents have to be aware of answering questions. They themselves have to be convinced. They have to study the Quran. They have to study the Sunnah as much as they can. They have to discuss with their children the faults and the mistakes of others so that they warn them against them. And they have to have ready answers for serious questions once their children reach the puberty age. Can you imagine that once a dean of a college called me and said that my son is asking me a very important question and I cannot answer him. I said, what is the question? He said that he wants to have a girlfriend, Muslim family. And I said, what did you say to him? He said, I said, no, you can't. It's haram. So my son said, why is it haram? I don't have an answer for that. So now he's a PhD holder. He's the dean of the school. Yet, he doesn't have an answer to a very simple question like that. Then we say, my kids are the best. My kids are educated in the best schools. I don't really care if he's Harvard graduate or Yale. What I really care about that, how will he turn up by the end to be a religiously committed Muslim, to understand his duties in this life, to practice the deen, to take care of the duties towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or not, to make the right decision in the serious times. If he fails to do that, then I don't have children. That's a waste of time. That's a waste of money. And that's why Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said that among the most important things which will maintain a constant reward of the individual, even after his death, is a son or a daughter, a child who's righteous, so that every ibadah of this child, after the death of the father will get a similar word because he was the reason for it. So the son would remember his father, his mother, his grandparents in his dua and include them and ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive them their sins. So meanwhile, I would like to condole the sister and everyone in a similar situation and entertain them. If you assume that you tried your best, to the best of your ability, until they reach the puberty age and they made the wrong decision, you're not at fault. And may Allah forgive you and forgive all of us. I don't mean that drop the case. I didn't say that. Rather I say continue making dua for them, and we too. And please, for all the viewers, join me to make dua for them. O Allah, guide all the children of the Muslims. Preserve all the youth of the Muslim Ummah. make them religiously committed, make them recognize their duties toward Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and help them to fulfill it. Oh Allah, preserve our deen. Oh Allah, preserve our deen. As the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to regularly pray, Allahumma ya muqallib al-qulub, thabbit qalbi ala dinik. All of us are subject to fitna. And that's why I say to Sister Jibril from Canada, why did you, is it okay to praise somebody in his presence? I say no, it is not. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in the Quran, فَلَا تُزَكُّوا أَنفُسَكُمْ هُوَ أَعْلَمُ بِمَنِ اتَّقَى. Don't you admire yourselves. Allah knows best who's more righteous, who's seriously righteous. This is number one. Number two, and the Prophet ﷺ saw somebody who was praising somebody in his face, in his presence. He said, you just slit his throat. You glorified him, that can deceive him. Third, Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, may Allah be pleased with him, said, Al-Hayyu la tu'manu alayhi al-fitna. As long as you're still alive, we're not sure how will you end up this life. You might divert away. You might get distracted. So we say, we assume, we expect this person to be good, and Allah knows best. نحسبه على خير, and Allah knows best.
Jazakallah khair, Sheikh, for all your advice and questions today. Answers today, sorry. Okay, that's the end of the episode we have today. Please do send your emails to ask@huda.tv. We can answer those, and we answer all of them so far, so there's no lag in those. Well, until next time, I'll leave you with Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.